Every interior designer, sooner or later, will use a Vray Physical camera. So what is a camera and how do we use it in interior design? You can see here a Vray Physical camera, and we also got another camera that we are using for this view. So the first question is why we are installing those cameras, what are they doing, and how they can help us in our projects. The most simple way to create a camera is to install a view and click on this Vray Physical camera button. Although we can use this method, it's creating like a free view, but in interior design we are sticking more to straight 90 degrees type of views. I'll delete this camera as we are not using random angles. I'll talk about the rules of interior design a bit later. For now, let's start with the basics. Usually we will use this second method to create our camera. We will go to the top and we will install our view. This is more like an interior design approach. We are not using random angles, we are not using free views. From the top we are controlling all the project and we control our views, and you can see here the settings of a Vray Physical camera. They are set to default for now, we will talk about them. And the first option here you can see it's about the target of our camera. We can have a target for our camera or we can have a free camera. Usually we are using an interior design targeted, but it's a lot easier to explain that on a small example. So let's get back to our previous scene if you remember it. We had here a few models and we had here a light and a Vray Physical camera set on default. So one more time back to our main question, why do we need a camera in interior? The two main reasons why we are using a camera is first, the point of view that we are installing using a camera, and next the exposure or the control of our light in our scene. You can see here a bunch of settings, we will talk about them a bit later. These are usually the main settings that we are changing when we work with our camera, and the main idea is that they are linked together. Changing one feature affects the other two as well. You can see here an image, we will talk about these features a bit later, and on this image we can see how we will affect our final render when we will change some of these features. But for the start, let's start with the basics. Let's see how we are creating our camera and how we can manage or control it. So first is the view. You can see here the Vray Physical camera 1. This is the view that we are using for our first camera created. In interior design, we are usually using straight views. I'll start our render so we can see what we are actually seeing through that camera. And the second reason why we are using our camera is the balancing of our light. If you remember, for this scene we installed the camera on default, and if I will switch to the perspective view you can see that we got a lot of light. So here actually interferes the balancing of light using these main three features of our camera. And this adjustment is actually crucial when we got interiors where we got a lot of lights, a lot of artificial lights. We will get to that in the next lessons. For now, let's start with our main steps. Let's see how we are actually creating a camera. So we will go to cameras, we will choose a Vray Physical camera, and I will drag a simple camera. I will not use stop for now. Let's discuss our main features. First of all, we got our camera and we got also our target. You can choose the target from here, pressing right click. Next you can see that between our target we got two planes. We will talk about them a bit later. And we got one more plane. It's placed where our target is and it is used for our focus. This is very important, especially when we will create effects like depth of field. We will talk about that a bit later. Next, let's go to the basic and display panel and let's see what options we got here. So the first option is about our target. We can create a targeted camera or we can create a free camera. Usually for interior design we are using target. So the logic goes like this. From the top, usually we are creating a targeted camera and we are trying to install a view that got the most advantage. And by advantage, I mean the most pleasant view that we can obtain. Next, we can use pen or our mouse scroll to move our camera up and down. And keep in mind, in interior design, we are raising our camera at the height of our eyes. Next, we got the still cam. We'll use only this option. This is like a simple photo camera. And if I'll switch off the target, you can control the distance of our target from here. Although in interior design, we will not use this option. Next is the focus distance. We can control this distance from here, although we will use the target of our camera. Next, we got the show cone option. This controls the preview of our camera, of those planes that we talked about, field of view, we will talk about that, and the focus plane as well. Usually we use selected, like on default. If I'll switch to always, you can see that even if my camera is not selected, I can see the preview of those planes. And the last option from here is about the horizon line. We can switch on and off our horizon line in the camera viewport. This is usually used to adjust the position of our camera according to the perspective rules, meaning the horizon line. In the next lesson, we will start to talk about what is a field of view for our camera and how we can use all that to adjust our camera.